Am I the a-hole for not waiting and reporting my brother and his fiancée for taking my ring? I, male 26, been planning on proposing to my girlfriend of 3 years who just graduated college. She studied overseas and is returning home soon. We both came from the same town, so our families know each other too well. I work in construction. It's a very demanding job, but I was able to save up for new furniture. I still pay rent. And I was so happy to afford the ring I was planning to propose to my girlfriend with. I paid $3,000, and my girlfriend didn't pressure me to pay that much, but I really think she deserves nothing less. My brother saw the ring and liked it. Even said that he'd proposed to his girlfriend with a similar ring, but complained he didn't have $3,000. I told him about less expensive rings that were just as nice, but he constantly kept holding it and looking at it. A week ago, I got home from work and discovered the ring was not in my room. My brother said he borrowed it to show it to his girlfriend, but forgot to bring it back. Turned out he proposed with it. I went off on him and told him to go get it back. He wanted me to chill, but I called his girlfriend's number and all calls were directed back to him. I called my parents, but they wanted to stay out of it. I told my brother to give it back the same day, and he begged me to give him 2 days so he could get a similar, but cheaper one, sort of like copy it, so his now fiancé won't notice. For days he kept stalling, saying tomorrow, no the day after, no the day after. I finally took a stand and told him I'd call the police, and I did. He wasn't with his fiancée when the police showed up, and his fiancée called him from the station when he was at my parents' house. He and my parents started cussing me out when I came, and my parents freaked out when I told my brother he needed to go to the station, or the police would come get him. He cussed me out for getting his fiancée involved, and said that I'm not a man to do this to a woman. But I told him the ring was in her possession, and that it's his fault his fiancée was involved. I got kicked out of my parents' house after a huge argument, and I got nasty texts from my mom when the police kept my brother at the station for 2 nights. She guilted me about what happened to my brother, and said I went too far. My dad helped get him out, and I got the ring back. Now, more of my family heard of what happened, and only few took my side, while others repeated my parents' statements saying I should have never done that, because he had other ways, but I went too far. What's worse is that my girlfriend criticized me as well, and said that I caused a lasting issue in our relationship with my brother and his fiancée, and I haven't seen my mom after this. Usually she's supportive of me, so this got me worried. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Yo, what did I just read? Your brother stole and proposed with an engagement ring you bought, and your family's mad at you? Nah bro, ain't nobody need family like that. Not the a-hole. Edited to add. I just want to share like so many others. My mother did this exact same thing. I once texted her because I needed her to talk to my sister about something incredibly important, and she just didn't answer. My mother said, stop texting me about your sisters. I'm not getting in the middle of it. I kid you not. Less than 5 minutes later, I get a text from my sister saying it's not her problem, and parroting what I told my mom. I called mother out on it, and the psycho said I didn't get in the middle of it. It's not my fault she was sitting here while I read a text out loud. Haven't gone home in 7 years, and man, I'm so much happier. For real, my heart breaks for Opie. Family can be challenging, but this is next level gaslighting and messed up. Good luck, Opie. Honestly, I feel so sorry for the brother's girlfriend too. Her fiancé proposed to her with a ring stolen from his brother and refused to give it back even after he was threatened with the police, resulting in her being picked up and held at the station. I can't even imagine how humiliating that must have been. The only silver lining is that she found out he's a gigantic a-hole before the wedding. Not an a-hole. Your brother stole an item worth over $3,000. While I would never put my sister in jail personally, my sister would also never put me in a position where I'd have to consider it. Screw your family. Maybe even the girlfriend too. That family's bad crap if they think everything is Opie's fault. That's the part I'm stuck on. He tried to talk to fiancé. She wouldn't respond and brother wouldn't do anything. What was his option that this girlfriend suggests? Legit, he was in a no-win situation, and that is over felony theft, greater than $500 US. Legit, Opie. If your girlfriend is against you, and there's no easy way to say this, you may have picked out a significant other unconsciously, because she exhibits the same toxic traits as your family that you are used to. Not today, Hall. Everyone is missing or skipping that you were the victim of a felony theft. Let things settle with your family. As for your girlfriend, she might prefer another ring, and your jeweler might exchange it for a fee. Your relationship with your brother is damaged because he committed a serious crime against you. If he doesn't face consequences for it, this is likely to happen again. You cannot be close with a thief. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my dad's wife bridal shopping because of conflict with her and my mom? I have an idea where this might go, but I wanted to ask. My parents divorced when I, 26 female, was 8. I'm the youngest of 3, 2 older brothers, and pretty much from day one, we knew our dad left our mom for another woman, and that the other woman was the person we were staying with when we saw our dad. There was always tension between our mom and them, and we always chose our mom. Our relationship with our dad was impacted by his decision to leave our mom for another woman, and for throwing us into a situation like that immediately. Knowing our family was broken sucked, and then we were supposed to give this new chick a chance knowing what we knew? In the fight, we have always sided with mom. Not that we were asked to, but we would prefer to just keep things separate where possible, or not include at all. I'm getting married. Booked an appointment at a bridal boutique and invited my mom, brother's girlfriends, and my future mother-in-law and sister-in-laws. Dad and his wife found out about it and are pissed I didn't invite her. She said she expected to be included after 18 years as my stepmom and my dad's significant other. Dad said he wanted us to let go of the past and treat them as family of equal worth to mom. I said I didn't want her there, and it should be my choice as the person getting married. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I just tell her sweetly that you think it's a bad omen to have someone there who has such little respect for marriage vows that should sleep with a married man, and that she's lucky that she and your adulterer father are allowed at the wedding at all. But I'm mean. Boom! This is the way. Not the a-hole. 100% agree. OP is going to need to carry some ice upon delivery of this burn. Not the a-hole. If you don't have much of a relationship with her, why does she need to be there? Simply serving time as a stepmother doesn't actually make her a stepmother, or someone you want or need there on a special day. Use COVID. Oh, sorry, we can only have 4 guests at the bridal salon. Exactly. It sounds like Opie and stepmom have no relationship, except the fact she's Opie's father's wife. Opie shouldn't be forced to pretend it's something that doesn't exist. Opie is not an a-hole. Agreed. Also, if your mom knows your dad left her for that woman, and that is awkward, I think giving your mom that respect of not including your stepmom is fine. Maybe to appease your dad, once you pick your dress, go to the salon with your stepmom, try on the dress for her, and have lunch or something after. But if the relationship isn't there, it's not something either of them should be sweating. They have to have some empathy towards the original situation of how they got together and how that could be awkward for you and your mom. Yeah, the stepmom has been in your life for 18 years, but your mom has been there since the beginning, and you have the relationship with her, not the stepmom. Not the a-hole. I personally wouldn't want a homewrecker at my wedding, let alone weighing in on what dress I'm going to wear. Dad, she's not invited to this bridal shopping thing, and that's final. I'm already inviting her to the wedding itself, despite the fact that I feel uncomfortable about it because mom will be there. If she can't appreciate that, then I'm afraid she'll just have to live with it. And if you or her push it any further, you'll find yourselves, uninvited to my wedding. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for uninviting my bridesmaid for my wedding after her husband was disrespectful? I, 24 female, went out for drinks with 2 other couples, 24 to 26. One married, the other in a relationship. Unfortunately, my fiancé couldn't make it due to work commitments. My best friend and bridesmaid Eve's husband, Matt, made everyone uncomfortable all night, suggesting me and his wife's other friend, Larry, be intimate together with him in front of his wife, and describing to me in detail what he wanted to do in bed to Larry's girlfriend's sister, Kate. Later in the night, he told me I was settling for my fiancé, was clearly unhappy, and shouldn't just marry him because I had his child. He said a similar thing to Larry's girlfriend, and they actually ended up splitting up after this. I left shortly after, and after speaking to my fiancé, who considered Matt a friend, he doesn't want him at our wedding. Understandable, considering he proposed to be intimate with the bride, and also told her not to settle for the groom. So I had an awkward phone call with Eve ahead of me. I then heard from Larry that he took it a step further that night. He cornered Kate outside the bathroom at the bar and told her to her face the explicit things he wanted to do to her, including getting his friends involved. Once I heard this, I knew I had to tell her, which I did. It was awful, and we both cried, but she said she was grateful to me for telling her. 10 minutes later, me and Larry get an apology call from Matt, which was him claiming he was blackout drunk. Couldn't remember anything from getting a taxi, despite him cornering Kate being before this, and is sorry if he said/did those things, taking no actual responsibility. Next day, Eve says it's all fine, and is sorry and said he won't do it again, so she forgives him. Fine, her marriage, her choice, even if this is the third time he's done something like this. I thought it was sorted, but a week later, she messages me to ask if Matt is 100% not invited to the wedding. I reply 100%. All of a sudden, I get a barrage of, "I can't believe you do this. He's my husband. You're my best friend. You can't make me choose. I would always choose my husband." There's going to be so much tension from now on. If you claim you've never said anything you regret whilst drunk, you're lying. It gets to a point where I've told her not to come either, losing a bridesmaid and a friend in the process. I didn't want her to choose, I just didn't want him at my wedding. Am I the a-hole? Edit. When I first told her what he'd done/said, she told me she understood us not wanting him there and that she would still be attending. She then went back on this nearly a week after. Now for the top comments. Just repeat, sorry you see it this way. Due to Matt's repeated inappropriate behavior, neither I nor my fiancé are comfortable with his presence at our wedding. It has nothing to do with you, and I'm sorry you're caught in the middle. It didn't have to mean you had to cut her as a bridesmaid, but if she continued stirring up drama, then you know best. Not a a-hole. Unfortunately, I said this multiple times. She kept saying he'd done nothing wrong and apologized, and refused to accept that he couldn't come. She turned me into the bad guy, and that's when I had enough. Yep, justified and necessary. It's on her. Not a a-hole. A wedding is supposed to be a time of joy and good vibes, and this guy Matt is probably going to get blackout drunk and try this on others. It's unfortunate that you are losing your best friend in the fallout, but that's on her. Thank you. Part of me worries that I was too excessive in uninviting her too, but I was just worried she'd sulk or cause a scene at either the hen-do or wedding. If she brought it up and tried to fight it just a week later, I doubt she wouldn't bring it up again. Not a a-hole. Honestly, he sounds like a predator. I can't wrap my mind around how she's okay with all of that. It's really sad. You don't think he's abusive towards her, do you? I'm not saying he is, but just the way she sees nothing wrong with everything he said just bothers me. I'm sorry you're going through this, though. Losing a friend, especially over something like this, sucks. I hope everything works out for you. I definitely don't think there's mistreatment. I think he's just played the victim each time, and she cares a lot about what others think of her. She has said previously when I've confronted her about his behavior that she doesn't want to be that divorcee at 24. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not supporting my brother's engagement? Hello all, this is my first post here, and I need an outside opinion. My brother 26 has never had great luck in the dating scene. He tends to only date women who treat him like garbage. In 2020, he met a girl online and she was definitely not his type, and he even said himself he wasn't attracted to her. They dated for about 3 months and he decides to ask her to marry him. She accepted, and they got engaged. About 1 month in, they have a big fight and break up. I was very supportive of him, even though it was clear it wouldn't last. Come to find out, she had a substance dependency and was only using him for his money. He looked over all her flaws and knew that she was taking his money, but he insisted she was the one. Fast forward to 2021, back in April, he meets a new girl, 21. She's admittedly a much better partner than his last, but still a very new relationship. She still lives at home and has been severely sheltered her entire life by super fundamentalist Christian parents. We are Christian as well, but like the cool Christians, lol. So yesterday, He announced that they got engaged. Needless to say, I was shocked. I have only met her once, and I have never heard her speak. He doesn't act like his true self around her. Tries to put on a glossy sheen, and of course she thinks he is perfect. When I found out, I approached him and said, "Why don't you wait longer? You don't really even know each other yet." He has never been in a long-term relationship, and neither has she. I got married on my 1-year anniversary, and if I'm being honest, I think we should have waited longer. We are 5 years in, and we feel we are just hitting our stride. I told him about my experience and what my wife and I went through. That was met with a massive, "Why can't you just be supportive and happy for me?" That's what a good brother would do. I then brought up my concerns to my parents, and their response was, "In this family, we support each other's decisions no matter what." I then said, "I have to blindly support every single decision every family member makes, even if that decision could possibly hurt them in the long run? I feel it is more loving, and it would be better to say, 'Hey, I know you really want this. I want that for you too. But I really don't think this is a good idea, and I love you enough to tell you this.' Am I the a-hole for not blindly supporting his decisions? Not the a-hole, but you will be if you keep pressing. You have given him good advice, and he is a grown man who can take it in or reject it. You have only met her once, and if you never even heard her speak, then your brother likely thinks your opinion of her doesn't hold much weight. Maybe you should try to get to know her better before discussing this further with him." Not the a-hole. Tough love over blind support, always. I lost a relationship with my sister for basically this exact thing. Long story. Turns out she's a narcissist, so she treats me disgustingly for years as punishment for sharing my concern with her that one time. Even if their relationship progressed swimmingly, it didn't. I wouldn't change my stance in a do-over. It's the principle. Not the a-hole, but please encourage them to do premarital counseling with a licensed professional, not someone from the soon-to-be wife's church. Some of the crap that religious leaders say in premarital counseling is appalling. Not the a-hole. Too many people feel that family means you blindly have to support every stupid thing they do. I think you've said your piece. You're not going to change anyone's minds. But it's not your fault if your brother's relationship crashes and burns. He is making his bed and he'll have to lay in it. Update. My mom got a $30,000 personal loan in my name without my knowledge. The account is from February, which was when they bought a boat. Now, they've missed 4 payments and told me they're going to let it default since the boat can't be repossessed, and they're going to call DCFS on me. Original post. I knew my mom had her eye on a pontoon boat for the past year. She and my dad retired in 2022, and while they aren't swimming in money, they didn't seem to be struggling either, or so I thought. They bought a boat in February for a little over $30,000. I didn't think much of it, since they've always rented a pontoon boat 2 to 3 times a year and didn't appear to have money issues. At the start of July, I began preparing to buy a house. When I applied for a pre-approval, I found out my credit score was barely over 600, and I had an extra $30,000 plus in debt I had no idea about. Even worse, it was 90 plus days late. I told the lender the account wasn't mine, and he suggested my identity had probably been stolen, likely by someone close to me, since the money would have had to go to a bank account in my name. I shared a bank account with my ex-fiancé, so I asked the bank to look into it. They said the account had been closed a couple of years ago, when we broke up, and no money had been sent to or taken from it since. I filed a dispute with the company and the credit agencies, assuming I had been hacked or that my identity had been stolen. About a week ago, I received a notice from the company at my apartment, the first I'd heard from them, saying they were going to charge off the account if payment wasn't made. I requested more information and was linked to their fraud department. They were able to tell me where the money was sent, to a bank account from when I was a minor that I shared with my mom. When I called the bank, they confirmed there was recent activity on the account, and statements showed the loan coming in and almost all of the money being transferred into what looked like my mom's account at the same bank. I haven't used that bank in more than a decade. I called my mom and asked her about it, and after a long pause, she admitted that's how they bought the boat. They made 1 payment on the account and realized they probably couldn't afford the monthly payment for the next 5 years. When I asked why they hadn't told me, She said it was because they figured I'd say no, and they were right, and that they had worked hard in their lives and wanted to enjoy retirement. It ended with them saying the boat couldn't be repossessed because it was a personal loan. My mom suggested I declare bankruptcy, and I told them I was going to the police. My mom said no too, claiming they wouldn't take it seriously. When I insisted, she hinted she might have to call DCFS on me. My 2-year-old burned himself on a hot pan earlier this year. A simple ER visit where we were told accidents happen and is fine, over an unsafe home. I still think I'm going to the police because declaring bankruptcy would make it impossible for me to buy a house. I just needed to vent and get any advice. Now for the top comments before reading the update. She stole $30K, potentially ruined your financial future for 7 years, threatened to put your child in a situation where they could be taken and put in foster care. For a freaking pontoon boat? OP, this right here. All this unnecessary suffering and stress over a pontoon boat? I'm sorry, but your mom sucks. Yep, this right here. It's all about enjoying their retirement. They're willing to hurt and abuse anyone who gets in the way of them having a nice retirement. Don't worry about the FCS. Chances are they will not investigate the report anyway. If they do, it's obnoxious, but these are 80% unfounded. You may need an attorney to represent you and file cease and desist letters that could turn into restraining orders. They stole $30,000 from you, and it was premeditated. They couldn't qualify for the loan themselves, so they stole the money from you instead, without asking. With a dollar amount, the DA is likely to press charges. I keep being shocked by parents who steal from their kids. This takes it to a fun new place with the threats of Child Protective Services. Please report this to the police. In addition, and tell them about the threats to contact Child Protection. For what it's worth, threats to file for grandparents' rights or to call CPS are a bright line for me. I would strongly recommend that you consider cutting contact with your parents or limiting their involvement with your family. They can't be trusted. Now for the update. I filed my police report the same day as my first post. The officer and I talked for about 20 minutes, and I provided a printed statement from the bank. A few days later, I spoke with a detective for another 20 minutes. Fast forward about 2.5 weeks, and my dad called to say my mom had been arrested. He said an officer and a detective showed up at their house asking to speak with her. When she went onto the porch, they grabbed her and arrested her. The detective, the same one I talked to, explained they had a warrant. My mom has never been in trouble with the law in her life, and she was arrested on a felony charge. They tried talking to her, but she immediately requested a lawyer. They stopped questioning her, but didn't allow her to see a lawyer right away. My dad was furious, but the detective told him to have a lawyer go to the county jail in the morning before she went to see the judge. The next morning, her lawyer spoke with her, and she was released in the afternoon with a new court date. About a week later, I received a call from DCFS requesting to meet with me about my son. I had nothing to hide, so I agreed. He spoke for about half an hour at my apartment, and I explained the situation. The caseworker seemed understanding and said there were no obvious issues, but she had to follow up on the report. I will say that if I'm ever in trouble, I'm hiring a lawyer. The case was dismissed at her next court date in late September. The detective called me the next day and explained that the state attorney believed they wouldn't be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she intentionally stole my identity. He said he figured it was a flimsy reason because he had documents from the bank and loan company. He mentioned that the state attorney often drops cases, even clear-cut ones, especially when it's non-violent and they have a hired attorney. She never made a statement other than having her attorney tell the detective she didn't do it. The detective also said the loan company might go after my mom in a lawsuit. What brings me back here is that, a couple of weeks ago, the account was removed from my credit report. Even better, I got a letter from DCFS yesterday stating that the allegation against me was unfounded. I'm never talking to my piece of trash mom again. Thank you to everyone who gave me advice and hope in my first post. It just sucks that she'll probably end up with a free boat out of it, unless the loan company sues her, which I hope they do. Send the loan company the address where the boat is kept, with a photo. The problem is, they took out a personal loan, not a boat loan. In other words, they borrowed cash in her name, then bought the boat with cash. so the boat is not collateral for the loan. They might be able to sue the parents, but they'd have to basically prove in civil court what the state's attorney would not bother prosecuting, which would probably cost more than $30,000 in legal fees. Personally, if my parents called DCFS on me for revenge, that would be the end of my relationship with them, never to revive again. I would never let them see the grandchildren. OP, freeze your children's credit too. Have a lawyer send a cease and desist letter stating, since you took out a loan in my name and then called in DCFS, you are no longer able to contact me or my child. Attach a copy of the loan papers and DCFS report. If she tries after that, look into a restraining order. Next story. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to subsidize my wife and kids anymore? Original post. All three of them are adults with full-time jobs. None of them have contributed financially to our household budget. My wife went back to work full-time when our youngest was 7. He is currently 24, and our oldest is 27. The kids have no student debt. Our retirement property is overseas, and that's where I am currently. 2 months ago, I finally had enough. I came home from an out-of-town work trip, and none of the food I requested be in the house was there. And it wasn't anything extravagant, just a loaf of sourdough, some deli meat, cheese, and a few condiments. Enough so I could make a sandwich before going grocery shopping. Apparently, that was too difficult for 3 adults to manage. My wife and I had an argument about it, and the kids took her side. I reminded them they were supposed to be contributing to the budget, but all 3 of them started whining about how expensive life is. No kidding, I'm working to support all 4 of us. Whatever, I made plans to go to our property on my next rotation. So after my time off, I went back to work. When I flew home, I just stayed at the airport overnight and flew out the next morning. I also didn't deposit money into the budget account, so now they're paying for everything. The house, my truck, and my wife's car are all fully paid off. They're covering their own utilities, property taxes, food, and bills. And they're all furious that I'm not giving them money. I'm good here. When I go back to work, I'll do the same thing. Stay overnight at the hotel and fly to work. My company even flew me to a more convenient city to fly out from. I think 3 adults with full-time jobs and a free place to live should do fine. I probably missed a bunch of information, but I'm a bit drunk, so feel free to ask questions. If they're not stupid, I'll answer. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. No, not the a-hole. What's your next move? It already sounds like you're separated. Is that becoming permanent? I don't know how to assist you, but I wish you the best of luck. I'd be curious what exactly is expensive when they all work full-time and have no rent or car payments to make. If their electricity bills divided by 3 are so high it eclipses a rent payment, they should use less. If they spend their money on food deliveries and shopping, too bad, so sad. Not anymore. Not the a-hole, but you probably should have made your kids adults long before this. From what you wrote, they appear to live with you and don't have much going for them. Yep, sounds like some parenting failure. Kind of made the situation is now like you guys didn't leave me sandwich stuff. That's it. Good luck. Convo should have been had 10 years ago. Are you even sure they're paying for things like the property taxes and other bills? Are they under your name? Because you might want to switch it out so they don't let it just go into collection and you end up with a bill. I work with a guy who taught me a very important thing. There's a huge difference between a problem and my problem. Now for the update. I woke up and read so many more comments than I expected. Many of them made me think, I really don't love my wife anymore. I love my kids, but they are leeches. I will be contacting a lawyer and initiating a divorce. I also will be pulling the plug on my retirement plans with them. I have enough money to last me the rest of my life here. I also have a defined benefit pension, but it won't kick in for another 5 years. Part of the reason I was working so hard away from home was to provide for my family. But now I see they don't give a half damn about me. I'll be offering my wife the house in North America and my truck in return for a fast divorce. I think that's fair. I'll keep my home down here. The other option would be to liquidate and split everything, but she spent 30 years getting the house how she wants it, so I doubt she'll go for that. If she wants to keep the house, I guess that'll be up to her and the kids now. Thanks for helping me turn a drunken rant into a life decision. I was probably headed that way, but an outside perspective crystallized my thoughts. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my sister's college when I'm paying for my fiancé's? So I, 29 male, grew up dirt poor. Like sharing meals and lights off half the month poor. My parents did their best, but with 5 of us, money was always tight. I hustled like crazy after high school, went to community college, then transferred to a good university while working full-time. I graduated with loans but landed a solid job in tech. Fast forward a decade and now I've got a good income and no debt. My fiancée, 26 female, is finishing her degree. She's been working too, but with her schedule and the cost of school, I offered to pay for her last 2 semesters so she could focus and graduate without loans. I want us to start our marriage on solid ground, so I don't mind helping her out. Enter my younger sister, 21 female, who's still in college. She recently found out I'm paying for my fiancé's tuition and flipped, saying if I can afford that, I should help her too. She's always been bitter about me getting out and doing well while she and the rest of my family are still struggling. I get it, but here's the thing. I've worked hard to be where I am, and I feel like my fiancé and I are building a future together. My sister and I aren't close, and it feels like she's asking out of entitlement, not need. Now, my parents have chimed in, saying it's family first and I'm abandoning them. I don't think I owe anyone anything, especially since I've already helped out when I could, paid off their electric bill last winter, etc. I'm torn. I don't want to be a selfish jerk, but I also don't want to set a precedent of being the family ATM. Am I the a-hole? Your fiancé is your family. Remind your parents and sister of that. You think he is an ATM? Better not to give a single penny. Exactly. Once you start, they'll expect it every time. Better to set boundaries now than deal with guilt trips forever. Tell them, yes, family first. That is why I am prioritizing the family fiancé and I are building and the family we will be creating. Yes, family first means focusing on the family OP and his fiancé are building together. He's prioritizing a future they're creating, which is exactly what he should be doing. Not the a-hole. You don't have to take care of your adult sister. You're not her husband, nor her father. She is an adult and can handle her own things. I'd go low contact with the entire family if I were you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that my stepdad was cheating with our neighbor and ruining their marriage? So I, 19 female, found out my stepdad was cheating on my mom, and now my whole family thinks I'm the bad guy. Here's what happened. I was at a coffee shop the other day, just grabbing a latte and trying to chill. As I am sitting there, I see my stepdad walk in. Nothing weird at first, I just assumed he was getting coffee too. But then our next door neighbor walks in right behind him and they sit down together. They were super close, and at first I thought maybe it was just a friendly catch-up. But then they started holding hands across the table. And at one point, he leaned over and kissed her. Right there, in the middle of the cafe. I felt sick. My mom has been through so much, and I couldn't believe he'd do this to her. I tried to tell myself it wasn't real, but I knew I had to let her know. So I snapped a couple of photos on my phone, just in case she needed proof, and later that night I showed her. She was devastated, obviously. I mean, who would it be? She ended up confronting him and things have been a mess since then. She's been talking about leaving him and they're arguing all the time. Now here's where it gets worse. Somehow everyone in my family found out what happened and they all think I made a huge mistake by telling her. My aunts and uncles are saying I shouldn't have gotten involved, that it was a grown-up issue, and that I basically ruined their marriage. They keep saying my mom and stepdad would have worked things out eventually and that I'm the reason they're falling apart. I'm honestly so confused and hurt by all this. I really thought I was doing the right thing by not letting my mom stay in the dark, but now everyone's making me feel like I made everything worse. So, am I the a-hole for telling my mom about the affair and ruining their marriage? Not the a-hole. He did wrong. You looked out for your mom, but you are being used as scapegoat. Thank you. He is a total a-hole. If you kept this secret for your stepdad, your mom would feel betrayed by you when it all came out later. Sooner or later, everything comes out.
So, most of your family thinks cheating should be kept secret? What a family you have. Perhaps there is more cheating and everyone is afraid you will squeal on them too. I would ask them straight up if they think what you did was fine and if they think cheating is okay. Yeah, they're probably cheaters as well.
Am I the a-hole for telling my dad to get an ironclad prenup and that his fiancée has questionable motives? So my mom died less than 4 months ago, which was a fairly unexpected event. 2 weeks after her passing, my dad, 63, tells my sister, 27, and myself, male 30, that at some point he will start dating again. I totally understood, although a little taken aback by the timing. The only thing I tell him is that he should wait a while before jumping into anything serious. He agrees and says that he wouldn't really consider dating someone for at least a year. Fast forward 3 days, and he informs me that he has reconnected with his high school sweetheart and have reconnected as friends. Still no issues on my end so far. 2 weeks after that, my sister, who lives with my dad, she helped take care of my mom, informs me that my dad and Carol, his high school girlfriend, are on the phone all the time with each other, texting all day and emailing. Also, Carol has made it clear that she wants to marry my dad, and that he is going to spend the weekend with Carol and build some bookshelves with one of her sons, who is my age. Needless to say, he's basically been spending every day he can with Carol and her family. My sister has been extremely against this whole ordeal and vocal about it. I have been against it and tried to tactfully express my concerns. Fast forward to this past Sunday, the day which we spread mom's ashes. My dad, my sister, and myself meet up for breakfast. He decided that it was an appropriate time to tell us he is getting married to Carol in March. To which I responded by saying, then you better get an ironclad prenup, because nobody in their right mind or with good intentions would start dating someone who's been a widower less than a month, let alone marry him within a year of his wife's death. I also won't be at the wedding. I don't want to meet her or her offspring, and that this entire relationship between you and Carol is not only disrespectful to my mom, but also make me question how much she even loved mom in the first place. Considering after your dog died, you said you wouldn't be ready for another dog for years, yet mom dies and you're ready to marry in less than a year? He was hurt, and the rest of the morning was quiet and awkward. Afterwards, I get texts from my grandma and aunt saying that what I said was cruel and uncalled for, and really upset my dad. So, please Reddit, I need to know, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. If you were calm and factual, not the a-hole. You raised several very valid points. And maybe it was stuff he needed to hear. I can't imagine the pain of losing a spouse, and he may not be thinking clearly. Stand your ground. I was calm the entire time. I've expressed several times to him that I know he is in pain, that he is on completely foreign ground, and is grasping at anything to bring him comfort. That I think he needs to take time and process his emotions before jumping into another relationship. His response was, you can't put the toothpaste back in its tube, and continues on with Carol. Not the a-hole. Glad you said something, because if you don't, then who will? I've heard of a rebound girlfriend, but a wife? This guy doesn't need another woman. He needs therapy. Sorry to hear about the situation, Opie. Yeah, that's exactly what my sister and I have been saying. He needs help, not another woman. Not at a-hole. He is being disrespectful. And I would even question if the relationship started before your mom's passing. Blah blah. He is an adult, but so are you. And his choices will have long-term consequences to your relationship with him. And the fact that he ran to tattle to his mom and sister to get sympathy tells me there's more going on and your dad is immature and needs to grow up. Yeah, that question of when did this really start has been in the back of my head for a bit now. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my future mother-in-law that I won't invite anyone my fiancé doesn't want to our wedding? My fiancé has a step-brother from his childhood he does not like, and does not have an ongoing relationship with him. The last time they saw each other was when they were 18, now 25, and that's the way my fiancé likes it. It upsets his mom and stepdad so much, and the half-siblings they share. But it doesn't seem like they were ever close. In old family photos, you can see they keep as far apart as possible. I have seen photos of the stepbrother glaring at my fiancé, and I have heard stories of how they resisted getting photos taken together, even larger group photos. My fiancé also showed me old school notebooks, where he used to doodle and write little notes about wishing his mom had never married his stepdad. And one of them had a couple of notes from stepbrothers saying he thought my fiancé should never have been born. So it's safe to say there is a lot of bad blood there. My fiancé was the one who said he did not want to invite a stepbrother, which makes sense to me. His mom asked him about the invites just the other day, and she was not happy to hear he was not planning to invite a stepbrother. Once she got him out of the way, she asked me to invite the stepbrother myself. She said the bride normally gets more pull, gets what they want, etc., and that brothers should be at each other's weddings. And one day they'll make up and my fiancé will regret not having him there. I told her I wasn't going to invite anyone my fiancé didn't want there, or anyone he already said no to having. She told me I'm becoming part of their family, and should put the work in to help him make the right choice. When I stood my ground, she did not respond best, and my fiancé kicked her out because he wasn't having her go behind his back, and lash out at me because of it. Some more of fiancé's family are saying I should have agreed to at least talk to my fiancé about it, since future mother-in-law asked me directly, and approached me as a new member of their family. This includes my fiancé's stepdad. And now I just wonder if I messed up how I handled this. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Future mother-in-law is trying to lay the groundwork for using you to manipulate your husband. I wish my wife had seen this tactic for what it was at the beginning of our marriage. It would have saved us a lot of heartache from manipulation pulled by my stepmother. I hope he did this perfectly. My mother-in-law tried to do an end-run around husband, and get me to make him do what she wanted him to do on several issues in the first few years. I just back up husband, tell her he makes his own choices, he's an adult, and I support his decisions. I hope he did great not letting herself be used as a manipulation tool. Not an a-hole, and it would have been a very bad move to betray your fiancé to appease his mother. Good on you for standing your ground, and staying loyal to the only person that matters on your day. You can invite whoever you want to your wedding, mother-in-law be damned. Nope. Tell them you are becoming his wife, not the family therapist. Not an a-hole. Agreed. Your fiancé is your family. Not an a-hole. Your fiancé is very clear that he doesn't want a stepbrother at the wedding. It's his wedding, and mother-in-law has to get over it. Not an a-hole. It's not just your wedding, but your and your fiancé's. And mother-in-law sounds like a lot to have around. Good for you for sticking to the family you're both choosing to start, as opposed to the one he was forced to put up with. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for flaunting my engagement at a wedding? This happened a while ago, but I'm just curious to see what people think of this situation. My boyfriend and I, mid-20s, attended a destination wedding in Greece. He's friends with both the bride and groom. They aren't super close, but obviously close enough to warrant an invite. We decided to turn it into a 10-day vacation, and spent days 1 to 5 in Italy and days 6 to 10 in Greece. The rehearsal dinner was day 8 and the wedding was day 9. We got engaged in Italy on day 2. We posted an Instagram photo as an announcement and enjoyed the rest of our vacation. At the rehearsal dinner, 6 days later, our friends congratulated us and asked some of the usual questions, including asking to see the ring. We never broached the subject ourselves. We only responded to question if asked. We were careful to keep it short and changed the subject quickly to avoid too much attention on us. So we only really talked about the proposal to 10 to 15 friends out of 125 plus guests. The next day at the wedding, we spoke to very few people about it at all, less than 5 I'd say, and changed the subject ASAP. I later found out that the couple was furious at us for flaunting our engagement during their wedding and stealing their spotlight. Apparently, we should have waited to post on Instagram until after their wedding, and I shouldn't have worn my ring to the wedding festivities. I felt horrible, because we really did avoid talking about the proposal as much as possible, without being outright rude to those who ask. I guess I could have not worn the ring or posted though. Honestly, I didn't think about that, but maybe that would have been more polite. So what do you think? Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. No a-holes here, but in your shoes, I personally would have waited. Obviously, it isn't the same thing, but I remember an episode of The Crown mentioning that Princess Anne couldn't announce her engagement until after the Queen gave birth, or something along those lines. I think the same general protocol would hold for etiquette's sake. Don't announce it while at the wedding or related events. I'd say on the wedding trip counts as related. Not Nahal though, because your life doesn't have to revolve around someone else's. And while you drew a different line than I would, you seem to be generally respectful and circumspect. I think this is a fair answer. The line I drew was the wedding trip, but I thought of it more like Greece was the wedding trip, Italy was our own thing. I guess at the time I thought I was doing everything I could to be respectful within reason. But from the answers here, it does look like I could have/should have done more. I'm going with no a-holes here over everyone sucks here. Your friends getting married can't expect a moratorium on engagements for weeks around their wedding. And it's not like you got engaged the day or two before it. But at the same time, since the wedding rehearsal was the first time you were seeing your friend group since being engaged, it became a de facto engagement party with everyone congratulating you. It also sounds like you did talk about your engagement even though you didn't initiate and not just say thank you and steered conversation away from it. Ideally, back to the couple who had paid for the event you were at. And on their side, I can see being upset at your wedding hearing people talk about someone else's engagement even if it wasn't everyone. It was your friend group, which for a lot of people are more important than a ton of family members you see once a year. So I totally get why they were upset. No a-holes here. From your perspective, you downplayed it as much as you could and tried to be thoughtful. From theirs, it was a lot. In these sorts of scenarios, there's usually an opportune timing at play. Maybe they happened to look over, or be nearby, every time it came up, and therefore reasonably assumed there were more instances. Maybe it dominated a lot of their interactions with other people. Whatever the case, it's the inherent danger of sharing big news right before another's big day. You can't control timing, and others' actions are chatter, and there's a good chance that even with minimizing it, it still becomes a lot. Not today, Hull. The idea that no one can have anything exciting going on in their lives in the months leading up to a wedding so they don't take attention away from the couple getting married is really annoying. Hey, brides and grooms. People literally showed up just to celebrate you. They're happy for you and think you look amazing on your special day. That's all that you get. No one is required to stop getting engaged or stop having babies so that you get all the attention. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my fiancé that I'm a father until I knew for sure? I, 30 male, am in an unforeseen situation and feel like the people I know in real life are too close to the situation to give a less biased perspective and have come to Reddit. First off, I am the type of person who doesn't like troubling others with potentially negative and/or life-changing news until I have all the facts, and preferably get all my ducks in a row. I feel like wasting someone's time and causing unwarranted stress can be a Nahal move. Now on to the story. 6 years ago, I found out that my then girlfriend was cheating on me. The lease in our apartment was up for renewal, and I had gotten a job offer in another state. So instead of fangirly confronting her, I ghosted her. Told and asked my family to block her, which they readily did, and then blocked any mutual friends who encouraged me to reach out to her. Sent a message to the side guy that he could have her, and that I wouldn't be on social media anymore. Although after about 2 months, I was back on with new profiles. I was upset for a while, but did move on, and I'm now engaged to my girlfriend of 3 years. Life was going great for me until, out of the blue, I was contacted by my ex, who told me that I have a 5-year-old son. Obviously, I called BS and blocked her, but she managed to get a hold of my sister and she convinced me that a DNA test would be best. I unblocked her and said that until the DNA test proved I was the father, I wanted no other contact with her. I told my fiancé that I needed to go out of town to handle unexpected family issues and that my sister would be coming with me. Since my sister was coming, my fiancé didn't ask for details and the DNA test was done. Unfortunately, I'm tied to my ex for the next 13 years, and I told my fiancé that very same day. She was shocked and hurt that I kept this from her. However, I explained that I didn't want her to worry for nothing if the kid wasn't mine, and that I was just trying to protect her. I understand that my fiancé will need time to process and reevaluate things, and I'm giving her space. Although now that everyone is starting to find out that I have a son, some of them are saying I'm the a-hole for not telling my fiancé sooner. I honestly thought that I was doing the right thing, but am I the a-hole? Edited to add, because I keep seeing this. 1. I ghosted my cheating ex because I didn't want to hear her excuses or see her cry. I didn't want to give her any more of my time, and a part of me took some satisfaction in thinking how she was going to struggle with the rent now that I was gone. 2. Between my ex contacting my sister and me telling my fiancé, it was about 9 days. 3. The only reason my sister went with me was because she already knew and wanted to come. If my sister hadn't known, I would have gone alone. It wasn't because I trusted her more than my fiancé. 4. When I entered a relationship with my fiancé, I wasn't aware that I was a father, so I didn't lie when I was with her. I don't know why people think I withheld having a kid for years. You're the a-hole. She's your fiancé, someone you plan to grow old with and share your life with. Sharing potentially negative and/or life-changing news is what you sign up for when you are in a serious committed relationship. You're supposed to be a united front, and instead you're leaving her in the dark. I don't want to trouble my family/fiancé, it's just an excuse for hiding things. This is a major thing. Why would he hide it? It is 100% a control move disguised as a nice guy, I'm so considerate move. By deliberately withholding information from someone, the OP is reaffirming, consciously or subconsciously, that they totally control the terms of their relationship and how close they can choose to get. The other person has no say. The OP is also controlling how much they have to show up for someone else. By avoiding messy situation, the OP doesn't have to expend energy on meeting anyone else's emotional needs. The OP is the a-hole. I hope his fiancé takes a long, hard look at what his secrecy and justifications mean when it comes to mutual respect and communication. You're the a-hole. You didn't just keep her in the dark, you lied to her by omission. She's supposed to be your partner, and if you can't be open and vulnerable about what's going on in your life, why are you even getting married? All it would have taken was, my ex contacted me out of the blue with this information. I'm getting a paternity test to verify. Learn how to actually trust your partner, or break up. Don't tie someone to you if you can't be honest with them. She has every right to be hurt and upset that you basically let her know you can't trust her or be open with her. And he did lie about where he was going and why. And even made sure to put in that with his sister coming, she didn't question anything. You're the a-hole. You continued your relationship under false and self-serving pretenses. Now your fiancé has to deal with all of this at once, instead of being able to adjust to the situation with foreknowledge. She should dump you for lying and demonstrating low character. You weren't trying to protect her, you were trying to protect yourself from her judgment and decision.